of the first modifications I always do when I get a new motorcycle is to install a garage door opener. I did that with my RS, which is right behind me here, and I also did it with the S1000R and also the Tracer. Because I commute every day with my bike, I want to be able to open the door easily and quickly with the garage door opener. So I get a little momentary switch which I install on the by the instrument cluster, and I just press that and bang, you know, it opens the door. What is connected at the other end of that momentary switch, though, is a regular old garage door opener that you get, you know, with your garage door. I usually have to go and do a little modification, obviously, to a standard garage door opener to make it work with that momentary switch. Now I do have some videos where I show the garage door opener already installed, but I never did show what is involved in actually modifying the actual clicker to make it work with my bike. The one on the RS right now has been there for about 6 years, and it's starting to go a little wonky. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So this is the clicker that I got off Amazon, and I'll put the link in the description below, but you got to make sure that you've bought the correct clicker to work with your garage door opener. And mine is got a purple learn button, so this is the one that I picked up for the purple learn button equipped garage door openers. Following the instructions, we're going to go try and program it just as it is right out of the box. Let's see. It doesn't have, this one doesn't have a little LED light or anything like that to tell me whether it's got a battery inside, so we'll see. I'm going to just go and do this at a distance here. You'll have to trust what I'm doing up on the ladder and the thing there, but I think that you press the button until it starts flashing, and then you press this, hold this down until it programs the unit, and then we can test it. It's opening the garage door opener. So let's do this. There's the purple learn button here. So I press that. It's learning, and then I hold this down. Okay, it seems as though it's programmed, so let's try it. The button pressing is kind of flaky, but that shouldn't really affect what we're going to be doing, because we're going to be not using this button. We're going to be not using this button. We're going to be actually soldering directly onto the motherboard, so it shouldn't really matter. So to open this up, we use a screwdriver and pry it open in this little slot here. We should be able to get that in there and open it up. This got slots on the side as well. So you just carefully go around and pry it open and take the back off. Now, remember when I was talking about pressing the button, right? I found that when I was pressing in the middle, that's when it was opening the door, and there's a good reason for that. The little button switch here is in the middle. So let's press that now and see if it opens the door. You see the little light? So you got to hold it down a little bit. Okay. And it stopped. It's not closing. This is a cheap garage door opener. This garage door opener is not the best, obviously. But the whole idea is that you've got something that will work with your momentary switch. And I'm going to be replacing the one on the RS, because the one on the RS is a bit flaky, but it seems as though this one is also flaky. When you install the garage door opener, it's like this. So the hole that you're going to have to drill to pass your wire is going to have to be somewhere where it's accessible, you know, to get to the motherboard. So we're going to be soldering to connections on either side of this switch here. Now, to try and figure out which wires or where to solder our wires to, you're going to have two wires, a red wire and a black wire to connect. So you need two wires, because what you need to do is to wire your momentary switch to close the circuit. So you need to kind of like have one wire going to here. Let me see if I can use this thing here to point with. One wire going to here and one wire going to here. What I've got here is a little jumper wire here. You can use a paper clip just to test for yourself. But basically, if I touch these two here, these two connectors right here, the garage door should open. See? So basically, we want to solder our wires to this one and to this one here. And this is the wire what I've got here. So the gauge is still a little bit fat for that, but I'm gonna find a way to solder to those two connections there, and then I can connect my momentary switch. So now I've got these two wires. It doesn't matter red or black which one goes on which side, because all they're doing is closing the loop. Just touch these two together and we should get some action on the garage door. See? Touch it again. Stops it. Touch it again. Okay, and the light is coming on. So that's what a momentary switch does. It's just for a momentary connection, and you don't have to keep pressing it down. You just tap it, make the connection, and then it activates the switch on the circuit board. So now what we've got to do is pass these two wires back through the outside of the garage door opener. So I'm going to bore a small hole here, big enough to pass these two little wires out, and then we're going to show you how to connect it to the momentary switch. This little switch panel here is just a piece of plastic. If you want, you can glue that down. It doesn't really matter, but what I do is I usually leave it so that this is still active, so that you can either press this button here. If your momentary switch on the bike dies for whatever reason, you can reach onto where you've installed this thing on the bike and just press that button and get the garage door open to open. So I'll just leave this in here as a functioning switch. Okay, now that I've got the hole drilled in the cover, what I'll have to do is pass the wires through the hole so that it comes out of this here, and then we'll connect it to the momentary switch. But before I do that, I want to put a knot in the wires so that they don't tug. You don't tug on the connections, you know, down on the motherboard and break them free. So I went ahead and put this little knot in the thing here, and I passed the wire through. As you can see, I put a little piece of masking tape here because I don't want those two wires to touch and open my garage door opener while I'm working on it. So now it's just a matter of closing this up, and we'll have that part of the job done. Good, so it's all put back together, and the wires are coming out through the little hole. Remember I said that I like to keep this switch here functioning, this button functioning, so we just test it now. So that's working there. And let's try closing it with the touching the wires together. There you go. So at least we know these two wires are still connected to the motherboard after all of that. And double check again. Because this switch, as I mentioned before, is not the best. I've installed garage door openers on bikes before, and the different Chinese switches that I keep buying, some of them are real quick. I don't know what the range is going to be for this one, but this one seems to be a little bit sluggish. I don't know. It's not as sensitive as the other ones, but let's test it again. Okay, there we go. It's opening the garage door. It's stopping it, touching it again, and it's closing the garage door. Good. So now you can put some silicone automotive sealant here if you really want, but this thing is not waterproof. and we're going to be covering this up with gaffer tape anyway, so it doesn't matter. I'm going to leave it without any sealant on it. But remember, when you've got to change the battery, you just got to pry open this case here, flip it over. It's got that knot inside, so you shouldn't really put too much tug. I can tug on this right now, and I'm not tugging on the motherboard. That's why the knot is there, right? And now I'm going to go connect this to the momentary switch. Let's go get that off the bike. So I've got the trim piece off the RS right now. This goes on the left front. Let me show you. This goes here, okay? And that's where I've got my momentary switch installed, right here. I'm going to put a link in the description below to the last one that I bought for the Yamaha. But the momentary switch just requires you, and I'm not going to take this apart to show you, I'm sorry. But what you do is, it has a certain diameter to it. So you bore a hole in the trim piece that you want to mount the momentary switch in. You bore a hole, you pass the momentary switch in. There is a nut on the bottom here. You just tighten that down, and in the bottom of the momentary switch, there are two screws. There are two little screws here for your red and your black wires. That's it. And that's the momentary switch there installed. Then you just got to find a way to stick this onto the trim piece that you've got. What I do is I use Velcro. So there's a piece of Velcro. So what I'm going to do now is actually I'm going to take some gaffer tape. I've got a whole bunch of gaffer tape. I'm going to take some gaffer tape, wrap this up nicely, put this piece of Velcro on here, and stick it on there. And then, of course, I'm going to make this connection here. What is this connection? This connection here to the momentary switch is just two crimp connections here. Now I've got to take this all apart and make a connection back to these existing wires. I'm not going to unscrew the connection here, so I'm going to just break this. So you might want to do something similar to this. When you make your garage door opener, you put a breakable connection here, so that if you do have to change the garage door opener at some point, you just break this connection and put the new one on, and then you're good to go. Okay, so now I've got a neat little wrapping job done here on this remote here. I've got my Velcro stuck on the back there. It's nothing too scientific. It's actually just a hack job. So here we have it. I did make this connection here. I just soldered it together, and I didn't bother with any crimp connections because the wire gauge that I use to connect to the motherboard is much finer than this, and I don't have a suitable size crimp connector. So I just went ahead and soldered it, and I put some shrink wrap on it, heat shrink. Of course, I wrapped the garage door opener in this, stuck it on, so it's all good now. We just press the button to see that it's working. There. Press the stop, press the close. So it's all good. So this is the way that I install garage door openers on the bikes that I purchase, and it's been working so far great. You just purchase an inexpensive clicker from Amazon and install it just like I did today. If you found the video useful, click like, consider subscribing, and click the notification bell for when I upload a new video. Talk to you later.